everyone, welcome back to Actual English. I'm Jennifer Clyde. It's time for lesson 222, triple twos, and today's topic is Insadong. Insadong is a place that's especially popular among foreign visitors, especially among those that want to get a taste of Korea or the Korean culture. But I personally like to go to Insadong on the weekends, especially when the weather is really nice, because I like to stroll the streets, check out the palaces or the museums in the area. But specifically, I like to go to the tea shops and also the galleries that they have in the Insadong area. So it really is a beautiful place, a great place to buy souvenirs as well. So today, let's talk about the wonders of Insadong. Are you ready? Let's get started. Have you ever been to Insadong?
Of course I have.
Of course. Okay, yeah. When I first came to Korea, I was researching all the different areas, and that was the one that seemed most appealing to me. I liked the idea of how it's kind of preserved this art culture and the Buddhist culture, the tea shops. It's kind of romantic.
Well, I agreed with you in a sense. I think things have changed somewhat. I remember when I first went to that area, it was really filled with a lot of antique shops. I think that harks back from historically a lot of the rich Korean, sort of the wealthy Korean people used to live there.
Right,
and then they had to sell all their goods after the Korean occupation.
But now it's become quite touristy, especially that one street near Anguk Station.
Right.
It seems very gimmicky almost.
Well, yeah. I mean, I still think, as you said, you've still got sort of the cool tea shops, and I know there's some really great restaurants there, which are very sort of traditional.
Right, and Buddhist food.
Absolutely. So I think there are lots of positives about it, but definitely agree. It's become much more commercial these days.
Yeah, it kind of makes me sad a little bit to see that happening. But there's a little area that seems to have sprouted off on the north end of it, Samcheondong.
Oh, Samcheondong, yeah.
Yeah, so
that's cool too, isn't it?
Yeah, lots of little cafes and unique spots. I like being in tea houses and cafes that have a lot of character and personality rather than these big franchised ones.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely has a different flavour, this area, compared to other parts of the city. So I think it's a great place to sort of hang out if you just want to get out of the riff-raff of, let's say, Myeongdong.
Right, and it's definitely the place I like to bring visitors to show them a cozier aspect of Korea. Well, from what Eugene and Mary have said about the Insadong area, it's quite different from what I experienced. Well, my last visit to Insadong was probably about 7-8 years ago, so it was a long time ago. Back then, it was a nice little street, a very cultural place, a place you would really be able to feel the culture of Korea. But from what Eugene and Mary are saying, it has changed a bit. So you'll see more coffee shops and these touristy places in Insadong. Anyhow, let's take a look at the conversation. Here we go. Mary says, have you ever been to Insadong? This is a pretty simple question. Have you ever been to somewhere? Have you ever been to Insadong? Eugene says, of course I have. Of course I've been to Insadong. And Mary says, of course you have. When I first came to Korea, so she's talking when she first came to Korea, I was researching all the different areas. If you say, I was researching something, it means that you were doing research on something, looking for information, facts, information about something or on something. So she was researching all the different areas or places, and that was the one that seemed most appealing to me. That here she is referring to Insadong, that place, Insadong. That was the one that seemed most appealing to me, most interesting to her. I like the idea of how it has preserved this art culture and the Buddhist culture, the tea shops. Now, preserved, it means maintained, okay? So when you preserve something, you are maintaining it. You are keeping something in its original form. So she's saying she liked the idea. She liked how it has preserved, or it had preserved the art culture and the Buddhist culture. And she mentions the tea shops. You'll find them everywhere. It's kind of romantic. Okay, so she's saying that the tea shops there are romantic, and the art culture itself is very romantic. It's a romantic experience, a visit to Insadong. Here we go. Eugene says, well, I agree with you in a sense. What does that mean? What does the sentence mean? I agree with you in a sense. I agree with you in a sense. Does this mean I agree with you completely, 100%? No, it doesn't. Okay, if you say in a sense, you are saying in a way. Okay, in a way, to some extent. Not 100%, but a little bit. In some way, to some extent, in a way, in a sense. Okay, and then he says, I think things have changed somewhat. Now, in a sense and somewhat are similar in a way, because somewhat also means to a certain amount or degree. It means kind of, okay? So he says, well, I agree with you in a sense, to some degree. I think things have changed somewhat. I think things have kind of changed. I remember when I first went to that area, it was filled with antique shops. So he's saying that the area was filled with antique shops, meaning there were many, many antique shops, okay? The area was crowded with antique shops. The area was filled with antique shops. You can also say the area was packed with antique shops. You're just saying there was many of something. There was a lot of something. I think that harks back from or to a lot of the rich Korean, sort of the wealthy Korean people used to live there. Now, hark back from basically means to have started out as something, or it can also mean to be similar to something, okay, in a way. So he's saying, you know, it's harks back from or harks back to a lot of the rich Korean, meaning maybe a long time ago, that's where all the rich people used to live. Perhaps it was an area that they frequented a lot. It's how it started out, okay? Sort of the wealthy Korean people living there, how they used to live there. And then Mary says, but now it's become quite touristy, especially that one street near Anguk Station. It seems very gimmicky almost. Okay, so she's talking about the Insadong street and also one street near Anguk Station. But let's take a look at these two vocab words. We've got touristy and gimmicky. Now, especially when you add a Y to a certain word, you're saying that it has a feel of that, okay? So, touristy, we're adding a Y to the word tourist, okay? If you say that a place is touristy, you're saying that it is a place that is designed for tourists. It's a place that a lot of tourists go to, or would like to go to, or would probably go to. Or it was intended for tourists. Okay, it's often used in the derogatory sense. So it could also mean that it's a place that only tourists would go to. Okay, touristy. Now, especially at one street near Anguk Station, it seems very gimmicky almost. Here, let's take a look at gimmick. Okay, also take the Y out, then it's the word gimmick. A gimmick is like a trick. Okay, or a plan that's intended to attract people's attention. Okay, so you could plan something. If you want to attract people's attention, you might come up with a gimmick. Okay, now if you say something is gimmicky, it has a feel. Okay, it somehow gives off a feeling that it was designed or intended to attract people, or to attract people's interest or the public attention, okay? So you're saying that it was kind of designed for tourists, and it's almost just, it was made just to make money, okay? There seems to be some kind of trick to it. Okay, moving on. Eugene says, well, as you said, as you mentioned, you still got the cool tea shops. You've still got the cool tea shops, but he said you still got it. And I know there are some really great restaurants there, which are very traditional. Okay, so he's talking about the very nice, the neat, the cool, the awesome tea shops, as well as the restaurants there that are very traditional. But he says, I definitely agree. What does he agree? It has become much more commercial. Okay. If something is designed especially for financial gain, you can say that it is commercial. If you can make profit out of something, you can say it's commercial. So he's saying long, long ago, everything used to be so unique. It would be about Korean culture. It would be about, Korean traditions. But now it has become very commercial. It seems like these places in the Insadong areas, were intended or built to attract tourists, okay, to make money. That is their whole point. Mary says, yeah, it kind of makes me sad. It's kind of depressing. It makes me sad to see that happening. But, she says, there's a little area that seems to have sprouted off on the north end of it, Samcheongdong. Okay, so here she's talking about another area, a close by area. So she's saying Insadong. It kind of makes me sad that the Insadong area has changed a little bit, but there is a little area that seems to have sprouted off. Sprout off means to develop, usually at a very fast pace, very rapidly. So you can say that a certain area sprouted or sprouted off. It means that it developed very fast. And she's talking about Samcheongdong, this area. Yeah, it's a very trendy place, right? All right, Eugene says, oh, Samcheongdong, that's cool too, isn't it? That area is cool as well, isn't it? Mary says, yeah, lots of little cafes and unique spots. Okay. Now, I just remembered there was a viewer that was actually very interested in pronunciation, recommending that we perhaps do maybe a show or two, a lesson or two on pronunciation. And one of the words that he or she asked about was the word cafe. Okay. So here, let's just go over the pronunciation. It's cafe. Cafe, okay? It's not kya, it's not ka, it's like ka. It's like an a sound. Cafe. Although you could say cafe, cafe. Sounds more French, right? Okay, so you'll see little cafes and unique spots, unique places. I like being in tea houses and cafes that have a lot of character, their own very unique qualities, and their own personality, rather than these big franchised ones or franchise tea houses or franchise coffee shops. Okay, moving on. He says, absolutely. It definitely has a different flavor. All right, so we know that it has something that's quite different, but a different flavor? What does flavor mean in this case? We are not talking about the taste of food or the taste of a drink. We're not talking about taste. We're talking about a very unique characteristic or a quality in a thing, okay? So he's saying it definitely has a different quality, a different character compared to other parts of the city. So I think it's a great place to hang out, get together with your friends. It's a great place to spend some time, mingle with your friends. If you just want to get out of the riff-raff of, let's say, Myeongdong. This is a tricky word. Now, riff-raff is often used to refer to people of the lowest classes. In the dictionary, it may define riff-raff as people that you don't want to associate with. They're the lowest of the lowest classes, okay? So it is a very negative word, but I think he was referring to riffraff, or I think he meant riffraff in a way that everything is just ordinary. There's no special thing to it, all in all, or something that's always there. Ordinary would be the best word. He says, so I think it's a great place to hang out if you just want to get out of the riffraff of, let's say, Myeongdong. If you want to avoid going to Myeongdong, because it's crazy or it's too ordinary for you, well, Insadong is a place worth visiting. I think that is what he meant. Moving on, here we have Mary finishing up the conversation. She says, it's definitely the place I like to bring visitors. Notice, she did not say take, but bring. We often can bring people with us. We can take people with us as well, okay? So you can take visitors to a place or bring visitors to a place. Well, to show them a cozier aspect, meaning a cozier part of Korea. Cozy, C-O-Z-Y. Cozy is just a way of expressing that something is very comforting and it's very warm, okay? And we'll go over some synonyms for cozy later on. So she's saying, I definitely would love to take, my friends that visit from overseas to, Insadong to show them the cozy, the very warm and comforting part of Korea. I think that's a great idea. Okay, that's it for today's actual talk conversation. Let's now take a listen to it one more time.
Have you ever been to Insadong?
Of course I have.
Of course. Okay, yeah. When I first came to Korea, I was researching all the different areas, and that was the one that seemed most appealing to me. I liked the idea of how it's kind of preserved this art culture and the Buddhist culture, the tea shops. It's kind of romantic.
Well, I agree with you in a sense. I think things have changed somewhat. I remember when I first went to that area, it was really filled with a lot of antique shops. I think that harks back from historically a lot of the rich Korean, sort of the wealthy Korean people used to live there.
Right,
and then they had to sell all their goods after the Korean occupation.
But now it's become quite touristy, especially that one street near Anguk Station.
Right.
It seems very gimmicky almost.
Well, yeah. I still think, as you said, you still got sort of the cool tea shops, and I know there's some really great restaurants there, which are very sort of traditional.
Right, and Buddhist food.
Absolutely. So I think there are lots of positives about it, but definitely agree. It's become much more commercial these days.
Yeah, it kind of makes me sad a little bit to see that happening. But there's a little area that seems to have sprouted off on the north end of it, Samcheondong.
Oh, Samcheondong, yeah.
Yeah, so
that's cool too, isn't it?
Yeah, lots of little cafes and unique spots. I like being in tea houses and cafes that have a lot of character and personality rather than these big franchised ones.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely has a different flavor, this area, compared to other parts of the city. So I think it's a great place to sort of hang out if you just want to get out of the riff-raff of, let's say, Myeongdong.
Right, and it's definitely the place I like to bring visitors to show them a cozier aspect of Korea.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time for actual expressions. All right, then let's take you straight through these words and then to our patterns. We've got somewhat. Stress goes on the first syllable, as you see. Somewhat means what? Rather, a bit, or kind of. Okay, somewhat. What about touristy? Okay, touristy, as I did explain to you, a Y is added to tourist. Especially in these cases, in touristy and gimmicky, you're talking about a feeling, something you sense, how something seems or appears. So if you say that a certain location is touristy, or it looks or seems to be touristy, you're saying that it somehow feels like it was there or it is there to attract tourists especially. Or it's a place that is mainly visited by tourists. Okay, so touristy. What about gimmicky? Also, it's a sense that you have, a feeling that you get. You somehow sense that they are designed for a certain purpose, okay? Especially to attract people's attention. All right, let's move on then. Commercial. Commercial. We're not talking about TV commercials. We're talking about commercial in the adjective form. We're talking about profit making. Something that is intended to gain money, financial gain, okay? Riffraff. One of all would be a synonym that best describes riffraff in today's actual talk conversation. But I did mention to you, most probably in the dictionary, it will say as slang, it's used to describe the lowest of classes or disreputable or undesirable people. So it has a very negative meaning to it. Okay, so be careful the next time you use this. Just keep it in mind. And cozy is what? Very comforting, snug or snuggly, and warm. A sweater can be cozy, a blanket can be cozy, a restaurant or a place can be cozy, a person can be very cozy as well, okay? So cozy. Think of something that is warm or a person that makes you feel warm inside and comforting or comfortable. Okay, that is a wrap. Now let's move on to our patterns for the day. In a sense was similar to somewhat. In a sense means to a certain extent, to some extent, right? Here we go. In a sense, that was the best option I had. Okay, in a sense, that was the best option I had. So, in a way, in a sense, same thing, to some extent. So, when you want to say not exactly, but in a way, in a sense, that was the best option I had, or that was the only option I had. I had no other choice. Let's move on to hark back to something. We're saying that something probably started out as something, or in some case, it can mean that something is similar to something, okay? The word icebox harks back to refrigerators that were cooled by ice. So we're talking about how it originated as something, how it started as something. So icebox harks back to, it started as refrigerators that were cooled by ice. Okay, there's that one meaning. And the second meaning would be to be similar to something, especially from the past. And here's a sentence. His music harks back to James Brown and other soul influences. We're talking about a musical genre, okay? Soul music. So soul influences. You're saying that his music, let's say Joe's music. Joe's music harks back to James Brown or soul influences. We're saying that Joe's music is very similar to the music of James Brown. He's a very old musician. Okay, now you get the meaning of these two. Okay, it can mean two things at the same time. And here we go with one final pattern, sprout or sprout off. Okay, here we go. Coffee shops have sprouted off on every street corner. It means what? To develop, especially at a very fast rate, very quickly, okay? Sprout off. Usually flower buds, they sprout, right? Buds or flowers sprout. It means to develop, open up as a flower. So in many cases, if you say that something has sprouted off, it means that it has developed very quickly. One more time. Coffee shops have sprouted off on every street corner. They're everywhere now. Okay, everyone, job well done.
All right, so if you're looking for a good tourist location in central Seoul, then I would recommend Insadong. But what is Insadong? Well, Insadong is a very kind of traditional place in central Seoul. And there's a strange rule there that you can't write any signs outside of the Korean alphabet. So they all have to be written in Hangul. So even the Starbucks in Insadong, it doesn't say Starbucks coffee, it says Starbucks. So it's pretty interesting. They really want to hold on to the tradition there. And there's a lot of things there that a lot of foreign visitors would really like there. You can get lots of tiny gifts that represent Korea. So if you're on a short trip, it's actually really good to go there. But actually, if you've lived here for a long time, then it's a nice place to go and laugh at tourists.
Thanks, Eugene. That was Eugene H. helping us out with today's actual story, talking about Insadong. He did make a good point that Insadong is a very traditional place in central Seoul. Let's check out what else he's mentioned. Here we go. There is a rule. Did you know? There's a rule there that you can't write any signs outside of the Korean alphabet. Outside of the Korean alphabet means that you must use the Korean alphabet. Nothing other than the Korean alphabet is allowed to be used on those signs. So he says they all have to be written in Hangul. all the signs have to be in Hangul, or all the signs have to be written or printed in Hangul. Very interesting. I like that idea though. Okay, moving on. They really want to hold on to the tradition there. We're talking about the Korean tradition. Hold on to something is what? If you hold on to something, you don't let it go. You don't want to let it go. You want to keep something. So they really want to keep the tradition there. They really want to hold on to the tradition there. And then moving on, you can get lots of tiny gifts that represent Korea. Maybe something that symbolizes Korea as well, but represent is a good word here, okay? So you can get lots of tiny gifts such as souvenirs, unique items, antiques that really represent Korea. Okay, he's made some great points here, and I learned that you cannot use anything out of the Korean alphabet when it comes to using the signs there, or printing, or having the signs printed. Okay, let's take a listen to the actual story response one more time.
All right, so if you're looking for a good tourist location in central Seoul, then I would recommend Insadong. But what is Insadong? Well, Insadong is a very kind of traditional place in central Seoul, and there's a strange rule there that you can't write any signs outside of the Korean alphabet, so they all have to be written in Hangul. So even the Starbucks in Insadong, it doesn't say Starbucks coffee, it says Starbucks. So it's pretty interesting. They really want to hold on to the tradition there, and there's a lot of things there that a lot of foreign visitors would really like there. You can get lots of tiny gifts that represent Korea. So if you're on a short trip, it's actually really good to go there. But actually, if you've lived here for a long time, then it's a nice place to go and laugh at tourists.
You know, we were talking about Insadong today and also mentioned Samcheongdong. So I thought for a moment, okay, would it be better to take foreign visitors to Insadong or to Samcheongdong? Samcheongdong has become a very trendy location, a trendy spot among a lot of the younger generations, but I would say even better, what's best is to take your friends from wherever they are from, take your friends over to Insadong first and let them feel the tradition and the culture of Korea first, and then take them over to the Samcheongdong area because it's very close by, and then also show them the I guess the old and new aspect of Korea, because you can experience a whole lot more in the Samcheongdong area. Okay, so how does that sound? Insadong and then hop over to Samcheongdong. So I hope that you learned a lot today, everyone. As always, please do go over the script that we have posted up on our homepage as you listen to the actual talk conversation, and go over the vocab words and the idioms, the phrases that we practice together, the patterns that is. Okay? Next time, let's talk about another very pop place, or a hip place, I would say, the Hongdae area. Do you often go to Hongdae? Okay, we'll talk about that next time. In the meantime, what you can do is come to our homepage, everyone. Come on over to www.ebse.co.kr. Look for Actual English with Jennifer and share your thoughts if you have any on our homepage, right there on our message board. Okay, that's a wrap for today. I'll catch you again next time. Bye for now.